The most dangerous thing you can do at work is be really, really good at your job. You start a new job. You're motivated. You want to prove yourself, so you do what everyone tells you to do. You show up early, you respond fast, you double-check your work, you fix problems before anyone notices them. Your manager trusts you. Your teammates rely on you. People say things like, "We're lucky to have you," and you think this is momentum. It isn't. What you're building isn't leverage. It's dependency. And dependency feels good at first. It feels like security. It feels like progress. But what you're actually doing is anchoring yourself to a role that becomes harder and harder to leave. To be clear, competence matters. Being bad at your job is not a strategy. But believing that excellence alone creates upward movement is where most people quietly get stuck. Here's how it works. When you become very good at your job, you remove friction. You reduce stress. You make processes smoother. You close gaps before they become problems. From a management perspective, you become stability. Stability is valuable, but stability is also something organizations try to preserve. If promoting you creates instability, guess what they choose? They choose stability. If moving you means retraining someone else, redistributing your workload, or risking a performance dip, they hesitate, not because they dislike you, not because they're plotting against you, but because replacing someone who performs quietly and consistently creates risk. And risk is expensive, so they keep you where you are. From your side, this feels confusing. You're doing everything right, you're outperforming, you're dependable, and somehow that performance just earns you more responsibility in the same role. You don't get promoted, you get expanded, your tasks multiply, your ownership grows, your calendar fills. You become the unofficial fixer, the unofficial backup, the unofficial trainer, the unofficial safety net. But unofficial doesn't come with a title change. It comes with more work. You become the person people go to when something breaks, the person who knows how everything runs, the person who understands the messy parts of the system no one else wants to touch. And here's the problem. The better you get at solving those specific problems, the more the organization associates you with them. You stop being a professional with range. You become the operations person, the reporting expert, the client recovery specialist, the one who handles the complicated cases. Labels stick fast, and once a label sticks, it narrows your future. Because when leadership thinks about the next role up, they don't just ask who performs well, they ask who fits the story of that role. And if your story has been written as execution, not direction, you won't come to mind for leadership. This is where most people miscalculate. They assume performance reviews are career strategy. They're not. Performance reviews measure how well you perform your current job. Promotions evaluate how ready you are for a different job. Those are not the same evaluation. You can exceed expectations and still not be considered promotable because exceeding expectations at execution doesn't automatically demonstrate strategy, influence, or scope. And most companies don't train you in those skills while you're busy mastering your current responsibilities. In fact, the better you are at execution, the less room you're given to practice anything else. When you're the reliable one, you're too busy delivering to experiment. When you're the one who keeps everything running, you're rarely given ambiguous projects where leadership skills are built. Your competence becomes your cage. Here's another quiet consequence. When you get very efficient, your growth slows down. Not because you lack ambition, but because repetition replaces expansion. You optimize. You build shortcuts. You master the system. And mastery feels like growth, but it's depth in a narrow lane. If your job stays 80% the same for 2 years, you might get twice as fast. But you don't necessarily get twice as capable in new areas. Meanwhile, someone slightly less efficient might be volunteering for cross-functional projects, speaking in meetings, taking ownership of messy, undefined problems. They look less polished in the short term, but they're building range. Range moves careers. Perfection in one lane often doesn't. There's also something more subtle happening: visibility. It's not malicious. It's pattern recognition. Organizations move people into roles that match the story already built around them. If your story is safe and dependable, you will be protected. Protection sounds good, but protection is proximity to the same level. This is why some people leave to grow, not because the company is toxic, but because the narrative about them has hardened. Sometimes the only way to reset the story is to move somewhere new, where no one has predefined your lane. Now here's the uncomfortable part. You participated in this. By over-optimizing your current role, you signaled comfort. By absorbing extra work without redefining your scope, you train people to see you as expandable, not promotable. When you consistently accept more responsibility without renegotiating title or trajectory, you normalize your own stagnation. That sounds harsh, but it's empowering. Because if you participated in building the trap, you can also dismantle it. This doesn't mean becoming careless. It doesn't mean reducing performance out of spite. It means understanding that competence is the floor, not the ceiling. Once you are good at your job, the question shifts. Are you building visibility beyond your team? Are you building relationships laterally and upward? Are you practicing skills required for the next role, even if imperfectly? Are you communicating where you want to go? Growth requires partial discomfort. Your direct manager sees your work, but promotions are rarely decided by just one person. They're discussed at higher levels, in meetings you're not in, by people who don't watch you solve daily problems. Those decision makers don't see the late nights. They don't see the quiet recoveries. They see summaries, and summaries are shaped by narrative. If no one is framing your work in terms of potential, you stay framed in terms of performance. Performance says you're great where you are. Potential says you're ready to move. Most reliable employees are framed as performance, not potential. Another issue is silence. When you don't speak about what you want, organizations assume you're content. If you never articulate ambition, they assume stability is your goal, and stability is easy to maintain. Leaders prioritize urgency. If someone makes it clear they want to grow, that they are preparing for the next level, that they are thinking long-term, they introduce a different kind of energy into the system. Not drama, not threats, just clarity. Clarity creates motion. Silence creates assumptions. There's also the illusion of fairness. You might believe promotions are rewards for hard work. In reality, promotions are often decisions about future risk. Who can manage complexity? Who can represent the team? Who can influence others? Who seems ready for uncertainty? If you've spent years proving you are excellent at certainty and execution, leadership may struggle to imagine you in ambiguity. You might need to step into projects where you're not the expert. You might need to speak before you feel fully ready. You might need to delegate parts of what you currently control, and that feels risky, especially if your identity is tied to being the reliable one.